Is it just me, or does anybody else feel like the people who are surrounding this crime are afraid to talk? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Lucky from Unfiltered Lucky. And today I want to talk about something that keeps coming up as I'm doing my research. As I'm watching interviews and reading reports and, doing research about the witnesses and people who are surrounding this crime, one thing that I've realized, and one thing that I get a very strong feeling about, is that people are afraid to talk about this. They're talking amongst themselves. I'm sure the whole Sigma Chi house knows what's going on. I'm sure the sororities know what's going on. So I believe they're talking amongst themselves. But they're not talking to law enforcement, and they're not talking publicly about information that they might know. As I've said in earlier videos, I believe that whoever committed these crimes was familiar with this house and was familiar with these roommates. I also believe that a lot of people on this campus are familiar with the possible suspects who committed these crimes. Now, Dylan's statement is very vague, very generic. And I understand that it's been redacted. I also understand that there's a gag order. But it almost seems scripted. It doesn't seem genuine. So I feel like Dylan is trying to protect herself as well as her loved ones. I feel like she is very aware of what happened in the house that night. But, self-preservation of life is a very powerful thing. And I believe that is what's happening here, is that people are afraid to talk. Even when you look at the parents, aside from Steve Gonzalez, none of the parents are really talking. Ethan's mom has been rather vocal, and Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's dad, has been vocal. But the other parents, they don't seem to be saying much. Why is Steve Gonzalez speaking for Maddie's parents? And where are Xana's parents? I feel like these people aren't talking for reasons other than the gag order. I feel like, again, they're trying to protect themselves. I believe they're afraid to talk because they believe that they could be putting themselves or their families in danger. Because really, that might be how this all started in the first place. Now, Bethany's statement was really confusing. Again, it seems scripted to me. It seems like she's making a statement to appease law enforcement officers. It doesn't make sense that Bethany was on the bottom floor of the house, but yet she's aware that her roommates were all home by 2:00 a.m. And then she also states that all of her roommates were either asleep or in their bedrooms by 4:00. Now, how would Bethany know that? How would Bethany know that? If she didn't hear any of the crimes that were occurring in the house that night, how did she know these two? How did she know that her roommates were doing these things at these times if she was downstairs and didn't know anything that was going on? It just doesn't make sense. You know, I feel like Brian Koberger himself may know who committed these crimes and may know how these crimes occurred through word of mouth around the college campuses in that area. You know, he wasn't arrested until the end of December. So he had plenty of time to hear all the chit-chat going on around the campuses about these crimes. So it's very possible that he knows this information, but he's not saying anything. He's definitely going to protect himself. Now, my question is, I guess, were the survivors warned not to talk? Are there certain people around this campus that know who these people are? Because now they know what these people are capable of. The surviving roommates, they know what these people are capable of. So it feels like people are not wanting to talk about these crimes. It feels like people are giving very generic statements about these crimes because they don't want to be involved with the people who committed these crimes. Now, if Brian Koberger is the solid suspect, he's the one who committed these crimes, according to the prosecutors. But if he's the one who committed these crimes, why aren't people more willing to talk? Why aren't people more willing to come out and share information? Is it because they know that Brian Koberger is not the suspect? That's a possibility. Is it because they know the people who committed these crimes are not behind bars and they're out walking the streets in this area? I believe that people surrounding this crime are trying to protect themselves. I believe they're not saying anything because they're trying to protect themselves as well as their loved ones. Like I said earlier in the video, I feel like preservation of life is very powerful. Also, knowing whoever did these crimes, knowing their capabilities is pretty scary because, as I said before, I've never believed that these crimes were a stalker situation or a crime of passion. I believe that these crimes were committed out of vengeance. I believe when I hear reports that whoever did this must have been in a blind rage, I believe that's one option. Or they weren't in a blind rage at all. They knew exactly what they were doing and they were sending a message. And from the feeling that you get when you watch these interviews with people surrounding this crime, it's apparent that those messages were well received. People aren't talking because they're trying to protect themselves. That's how I feel about it. Now, Bethany has been called to testify by the defense, by Brian Koberger's attorney, because they believe that she has exculpatory evidence. The judge also said that Bethany would not be arrested. Now, why would Bethany be arrested? That doesn't, she was a victim of the crime. Why would she be arrested? She lawyered up. So, did she maybe make false statements to law enforcement? That's definitely something to think about. I don't feel like Bethany and Dylan had anything to do with these crimes initially. I do believe that they're innocent victims. But I do think that they might be withholding information in order to protect themselves. And I mean, I can understand that. They, like I said, they know what these people are capable of. And they're not going to mess around with that. And you can't really blame them. Stay tuned for my next video. And I also wanted to say thank you, a heartfelt thank you to everybody who subscribes to my channel and for all of the comments on my videos. I do read the comments. I try to respond to as many as I can. And I really appreciate that. So I did want to say a heartfelt thank you to everybody who subscribes to my channel and everybody who is following me on this journey. I really, truly appreciate it. We'll see you soon.